Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. In today's episode, we're going to recap the weekend in Dover, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about, including Denny Hamlin threatening to expose NASCAR, Kyle Busch responding to Shane van Gisbergen calling him old and scared, Kyle Larson addressing his recent slump, Mother Nature making her presence felt throughout the weekend, including an early ending to the Xfinity Series race that had a familiar winner in Victory Lane. And of course, we'll break down Sunday's race, which had a lot of unknowns going in. But when we finished, we saw another animal meet its untimely death, had our first four-time winner of the 2025 campaign, learned who the final participants would be for the in-season challenge tournament, and received a surprise warning issued by Richard Childress. However, before we get into this episode, I want to talk to you about a new partner that I am really excited to welcome to the channel, and that's Our Belief. Our Belief is a company that's based out of the Lone Star State, not some foreign country, but a Texas-based company in the good old USA that makes massage guns and accessories. And being somewhat of a massage gun connoisseur because I've used them for years, the first thing I notice about any gun is its case. And as you can see, this one comes with a sharp-looking clean cloth exterior, but when you open it up, it's clearly reinforced. Inside, you'll find the sleek-looking gun, in this case the CM40G, and 7 different attachment heads. Yes, 7. I've tried all of them, but I have 3 that I used more than the others, and they were the ball, which is your standard head, plus the bullet, which can really get deep in your tissue, and the fork-shaped head, which I like because it can get 2 areas at once. While I love the variety in the attachments, undoubtedly my favorite thing about the CM40G is its power. As I said, I've tried other guns in the past, and the intensity levels leave a lot to be desired. Not with this guy. It's got 5 levels, and level 5 is my go-to, especially with the bullet attachment because I know it's going to go deep and provide me some much-needed relief. Whether it's after a long day of sitting at my desk or tired muscles from a workout, this massage gun from Our Belief has become a part of my regular routine. Honestly, I'm so happy with it. You can ask my wife. She's seen me use it daily for the last several weeks and hears me rave about how good it feels after each use. And yes, I've even let her borrow it. Now, I can't let you borrow mine, but I'd certainly recommend you buy one of your own so you can experience the same power and, more importantly, the same relief I found using the CM40G massage gun from Our Belief. And here's another great thing. It's definitely in your budget because it's available now for just $59.99. Seriously, go check these guys out and give the CM40G gun a try. Click the link in the description to get relief sent your way. And thanks again to Our Belief for sponsoring this episode. Now let's go back to Saturday morning and driver media availabilities. And there was one particular comment that I wanted you to hear regarding the 2311 Front Row Motorsports lawsuit with NASCAR and what Denny Hamlin had to say about it.
Denny, you guys are running as open teams now. What's the outlook for that? And are you concerned that with Reddick's clause in his contract that he could potentially be lured away by another team?
I don't have any direct comment to that. All I can tell you, and this will just be my blanket answer for all questions about this, is that if you want answers, you want to understand why this is all happening, come December 1st. You'll get the answers that you're looking for, and all will be exposed.
Hamlin made it clear that that would be his answer to any question regarding the lawsuit. I wonder what will be exposed. I have some ideas, but I guess we'll have to wait and see exactly what that is if it goes to trial in December. Moving on to later in the day for a practice and qualifying session that never happened. But before we knew that, during the rain delay, TNT interviewed multiple drivers. One of those interviews was Danielle Trotta talking with Kyle Busch, and she followed up on the conversation she had earlier in the week with Shane van Gisbergen on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio when he said this.
I love the summer shootouts at Charlotte. I love that you're out there too. Is Brexton Busch, is Kyle's son out there too?
Yeah, he's in the younger classes though. He's a little bit young. And then Kyle's a little bit old and scared. He's in the Masters class. He doesn't race with us, so that would have been fun.
Busch explained that at 40 years of age, he's eligible to race in the Masters class. But more importantly, he said the Pro Division is made up of drivers who are 12 and older. And after what he experienced in Florida earlier in the year where they repeatedly wrecked him, he opted to race in the Masters class, and then he said this.
Ask Shane how many races he's actually finished in the pro class this year. Or how many bumpers or fenders or toe links he's knocked off in the Legends cars. My car's been clean and green, and we've won a few times, so it's been much more fun having my stuff come back after a race in one piece.
Touché. Sticking with Kyle's, It was a little bit later during the broadcast that TNT caught up with Kyle Larson and talked to him about his lackluster performance as of late.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't deny that we're in a slump. I mean, I think the results kind of show that. But I think, some of it's been a little bit out of our control, and then some of it's, been great execution with a, car that's been a little bit off on speed too. So, it's been a rough couple months here.
A slump. We haven't heard that word associated with Kyle Larson in a long time. And that takes us to later in the day on Saturday afternoon in the Xfinity Series race that was cut short due to rain. While we returned to the roundy rounds, we had a familiar winner in Connor Zilisch recording his 4th win of the season. Listening to his post-race interview, I, like everyone else, always think to myself, he's mature beyond his years. He confirms that every time he talks, and more significantly, every time he straps in behind the wheel. He's 18, almost 19 years old, and already has 4 wins this season. As I get older, I try to live in the moment and appreciate things more. And I think we are witnessing the beginning of what is the sport's next big superstar, and something we'll look back on in 25 years and think back to when it all started. I'm going to enjoy watching this journey and seeing what Zilisch can achieve. The other thing I wanted to talk about from the Xfinity Series race is it was a race with 0 cautions for cause. The only cautions were for stage breaks, which takes us into Sunday's race. It was a race with a lot of unknowns since 1, we didn't have practice or qualifying, 2, we didn't know anything about the new tires and how they were going to perform because they hadn't been tested, and 3, we didn't know what the track was going to race like because there was no rubber on the track after rain from the night before. There were even rumblings that we might have a race similar to the 2024 Bristol Spring Race where we had all those corded tires. All that uncertainty was one of the main storylines going in. The other was the in-season bracket challenge with John Hunter Nemechek going against Ty Dillon and Ty Gibbs going against Tyler Reddick. More on this in a bit. Before the green flag waved, we had the flyover and unfortunately our 4th animal fatality of the 2025 Cup Series season. However, this one was different than the last 2, with Justin Haley hitting a rabbit on track last week at Sonoma and Ty Dillon hitting a squirrel on pit road at Michigan. Sunday's incident was similar to Josh Berry's bird obliteration earlier in the year at Talladega. Moments after the massive military aircraft passed over Miles the Monster, it sucked a bird into its engine. I was watching it live and then had to go back and rewind because I thought my eyes were deceiving me. Unfortunately, they were not. One final thing before we get into the race. I wanted to briefly touch on TNT's coverage. After Chicago, I was critical of the coverage and said I would withhold judgment until after Sonoma. I didn't think it was bad last week, but then yesterday there were more than a few blunders, which once again reminded me of Fox in more ways than one. Here's what was shown as the cars made their pace laps around the track, and the broadcast talked about the grid lineup. Yes, that's J.J. Yaley, not Shane van Gisbergen. Just a completely botched graphic. And besides just a general blunder reminding me of Fox's lackluster production, take a look at a botched graphic from Fox 2 years ago. Yes, J.J. Yaley, the F1 champion. I seriously saw that mistake yesterday and couldn't help but think of Fox's mistakes through the years, and that one in particular. Do better, TNT. Moving on to the race, and because the lineup was set by the metric, it was the chases starting on the front row with Elliott on the pole. Back in row 3 in the 6th position was Shane van Gisbergen making his first ever start on the mile-long track in a Cup car and running his first ever laps because there was no practice or qualifying. He admitted on Saturday during an interview that he was a little concerned going into it completely blind, not knowing what to expect. So naturally, eyes were focused on him when the green flag waved, and even more so when he radioed to his team that he had a problem. It took the number 88 Trackhouse car multiple laps to finally get to the back of the field and down to the bottom lane before he could pit, where it was discovered that he had a punctured right front tire. Chase Briscoe led the first 13 laps before Chase Elliott took control of the race and led until the competition caution on lap 35. In that first stage, you started to get vibes from Saturday's Xfinity race as there were no cautions for cause. Chase Elliott moved back to the point on the restart and showed he was a potential race-winning car. The biggest challenger to the Hendrick Motorsports driver in that first stage, surprisingly enough, came from Daniel Suarez, who was in the back of the field and fought hard with his Chevy teammate to prevent himself from going a lap down. That battle allowed Christopher Bell to close in on the number 9 car, but he was unable to catch him. Elliott won the stage and was followed by Bell, Hamlin, Byron, and Bowman, all HMS and JGR cars in what would turn out to be a common theme for the day. During the break, there was some cording discovered on the tires, but the teams weren't too concerned because that was believed to be the longest run of the day. Of note, Joey Logano finished 9th and was the lone Ford inside the top 10. Kyle Busch, who had finished 8th in that first stage and 1 spot ahead of the Team Penske driver, wasn't happy with the three-time champion early on in that second stage.
Back one. Outside, bottom three, all clear, shoot back one. Am I not fucking here?
Elliott was leading in that second stage when they had their first round of green flag pit stops. Unfortunately, the number 9 pit crew had an issue with the jack and came out 5th, which allowed Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell to move up front. Around that same time, Hamlin encountered the lap car of Ty Dillon, who, like Suarez in that first stage, made it hard on the leader to try and pass. Unsurprisingly, Hamlin wasn't pleased by the move.
You're clear right here. All clear. What the fuck? Fucking cut me off and run me this shit. I'll fucking get that.
Toward the end of that stage, Ross Chastain and Joey Logano were running close to each other, and I couldn't help but think back to what Logano had said earlier in the week on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio.
It obviously was intentional. He admitted it was intentional, which is obviously very frustrating from my point of view because he pulled the gun on the wrong person, right? I mean, that's how I look at it. You know, I was an innocent bystander in the whole thing, and I'm the one that gets wiped out. Yeah, I'm obviously very pissed off about it. Upset about the way it was handled post-race from his perspective. Upset that NASCAR didn't step in and do anything about it. You know, that's where my honest opinion is at the moment. I have to continue to go race though, right? I have to continue to go out there and try to win. But things like that are always going to be on your mind. You're always going to remember it, and you keep moving, right? Like, it is what it is. You know, those are choices that were made by every party involved. And now I got to go out there and do what I have to do to go win the races now. Just part of it, right? It's when you put in your memory bank and you move on.
And then here's what happened.
30 to go.
And Logano wasn't done. When the stage ended, Bell won it, and he was followed by Bowman, Hamlin, Elliott, and Larson. Once again, all JGR and HMS cars in the top 5. This time, it was Ryan Blaney replacing his Penske teammate as the only Ford inside the top 10, where he finished 9th. During the pit stop, Elliott's pit crew redeemed itself by busting off a fast pit stop, and he moved up to 2nd coming off of pit road. Going into that final stage, much like the Xfinity race the day before, we had 0 cautions for cause. I kid you not, but I was thinking to myself, are we going to have what's happened in recent weeks where there were no cautions early on and then a whole rash of them late? I had no idea. Christopher Bell was running up front when he went for a spin just a couple laps into that final stage. Honestly, it was a miracle that nobody else was involved in that spin. On the next restart, Logano sent another message to Chastain, sending the number 1 car up the track. While weather had been a potential topic for much of the weekend, the team radios filled with chatter about possible rain looming. On lap 325, pit stop started and the leaders in Elliott and Hamlin came in. Christopher Bell did not, and when the caution flew on lap 338 for rain, he was the new leader. The subsequent pit stop produced some mixed-up strategies and one surprise, with Alan Gustafson calling for the number 9 car to come down pit road and take right-side tires. When the race resumed and the final laps dwindled, we were once again racing against the rain with Bell and Hamlin out front. And then on lap 385, Ross Chastain made contact with the wall, went for a spin, and brought out the yellow. And then the heavens opened up. Going into what turned out to be a 56-minute red flag delay, the in-season challenge had Reddick 9th versus Gibbs 11th, while John Hunter was 23rd and Ty Dillon was right behind him in 24th. The red flag was notable for one hilarious moment brought to us courtesy of Noah Gregson, who said this.
How much the athletes and what they have to go through.
Yeah, Mark Martin used to have a fan that went between his legs. Mine's a little bigger though, Mark.
We are always
He's
good
talking about
for
the fan,
one.
I think.
The fan, yeah.
Talking about the fan. Yeah.
Gregson was referring to a post on X last year by Mark Martin talking about how he kept himself cool during his racing days. Once the delay ended, and kudos to NASCAR for resuming the race, the question was to pit or not to pit, 2 tires versus 4 tires. The top 7 cars stayed out. The other cars came down pit road. And that's when Ty Gibbs had a scary near-miss incident with his cousin.
On the jack, right side, on the jack. Wall.
You get Jackson?
Yeah, he's fine. I'm just talking to him on digital about your two's relationship right now, trying to figure it out, but he's good.
That was quite a jump.
On the restart, Bell battled with Denny Hamlin and then went for his second spin of the day with 8 laps to go and collected Noah Gragson and William Byron, which sent us to overtime. On that first overtime restart, Zane Smith was involved in an incident which sent us into double overtime. On the final race restart, Denny Hamlin held off Chase Briscoe to record his 4th win of the season. He was followed by Briscoe, Bowman, Larson, Gibbs, and Elliott rounding out the top 6. All HMS and JGR cars once again. While Hamlin was the race winner and the main storyline, Ty Dillon was a close second as he finished 20th, 1 spot ahead of Nemechek, and advanced to next week's final round at Indianapolis, where he'll face Ty Gibbs for $1 million. Cinderella's slipper still fits. And finally, there was one interesting comment that I wanted to talk about that happened after the race, and it came from Richard Childress, who said this on the number 8 team radio.
Thank you.
Got to get some race cars. We are in trouble. Period.
Not really sure what prompted that, but RC was clearly not happy. I did go through the RCR 2025 numbers and compared them to 2024 for both Busch and Austin Dillon, and their numbers are actually on pace to be better than last year, while both drivers have better average starting and finishing positions this year over last year. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. I want to hear what you thought about it. Let's go back to Hamlin's comments on the lawsuit. What do you think he meant by all will be exposed? Second, for you Kyle Larson fans, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about the number 5 team's recent struggles and how you feel after yesterday's 4th place finish. And I'm curious to hear what you guys thought about the overall race, including you Chase Elliott fans letting me know about that late pit call to take 2 tires. And lastly, one order of business. I've added a new print to the store today, and it's this Denny Hamlin race winning print. It's now available for purchase. But for one lucky Denny Hamlin fan, I'm giving away an 11x14 print. Just comment Hamlin winner in the comments and you'll be eligible. That's Hamlin winner. Thanks again for checking out the latest episode and supporting the channel. I really appreciate it and hope you have a great rest of your day.